and welcome to episode number 266 of the LSR podcast. My name is Matt Brown, joined each and every week by the brightest minds in all of the gaming industry. With me, I have two of those. How lucky are you, Pat Evans, Sam McQuillan, here with me as we'll have our state roundup and talk Alaska and Alabama and Oklahoma and Mississippi. Underdog got valued at a whole lot of money. We'll talk about that. Pat will talk about his state of Michigan, what went down with that whole Resorts World thing. Yeah, you remember that story from a long time ago. That punishment got revealed, and some imitation casinos out there and what's going on in that market. But Sam, let's kick things off here, and we're going to keep it upbeat despite the fact that the team that you bandwagoned and Pat's actual team and the team that I had the most money on in my Calcutta are all gone. They're not in the Final Four. It's fine. We're going to go ahead. We're going to have an upbeat podcast here, and you're going to tell us about Robinhood, which seems like they are in the news just about every week that we do this.
Yeah, geez, where to even start on Robinhood? The headline here is that regulators, states alike, are now taking action against what they started to do right before March Madness, which was open up these prediction market thingies, as we call them, a few weeks back, essentially allowing you to buy contracts on the outcome of a game. Very, very, similar to sports betting, but wanting to be adjudicated or regulated federally as an exchange, like similar to the stock market, similar to what Robinhood does with stocks, as opposed to actually going state by state, getting a license. And now you've got 3 states now. It could be more by the time you hear this podcast. You've got Ohio, you've got Massachusetts, and New Jersey as well, and Nevada. So that's 4, actually. All took some sort of action against Robinhood, telling them that what they're doing is unlicensed sports betting. You actually had Robinhood comply in New Jersey. They sent a cease and desist last week. New Jersey, one of those states that's very sharp with the gaming regulators. They've been one of the oldest states. They're always kind of at the forefront of big changes. Other states look to them when they make decisions. So essentially what they're saying here is, what you're offering is illegal betting. Robinhood pulled the offering from New Jersey. So it used to be you could be in all 50 states, basically wagering on the NCAA men's and women's tournaments. You can no longer do that in New Jersey. Nevada had done it a couple of weeks ago. Massachusetts, a little different story there. That's where you have the Secretary of State's office in Massachusetts going after them, going after Robinhood, basically demanding that they give answers about what's going on. So not the actual gaming agency there. Just a small little distinction. And then on top of all of that, you have the federal regulators that are supposed to do or say something about this new biggest story of the year so far, the exchanges, the event contracts. They haven't weighed in yet. They're going to eventually. Robinhood is very much pulling to be federally regulated. And it seems like these states are so far saying you can't do that. So we've had kind of our first development in them complying and pulling back in a few places. But there's more to come here, and we'll be sure to be on top of all of it in all 50 states.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pat, just to remind people who are just finding this podcast, we are not lawyers. We are just reporting all of this. And, as we say, there will be lawyers in all of this. So we don't have an opinion. We're just saying what is happening out there, because I think a lot of times with us reporting on news on here, sometimes it's taken as if we're taking some sort of stance or opinion and all this stuff. It's like, no, this is just what's happening with Robinhood. Like, we're not saying they can, they can't, there's a gray area, whatever. That's not what we're here to do. We're just letting you know what is actually going on out there.
No, 100%. And as you're saying, lawyers, there's 2 lawsuits coming, or more than that, I don't even know, but we've got a story coming from a legal expert that will be new to LSR that we'll introduce, I think, with this story. I don't know. Has he published anything else, Sam? I'm not even aware. Okay, yeah. He has. Okay, so I'm late. I haven't read it. I'm sorry.
You've been busy.
I've been a little busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, the lawyers are getting involved already. But I think it's also important to note Rep. Dina Titus from Nevada has also come out and asked the CFTC to halt this event trading market thingy industry, which they haven't done, but she has, asked them to do. I don't know. It's just so interesting. I mean, just coming, however many years we are into this now, I don't even know. Time is a thing that I don't even understand anymore. But how many different kind of entries into this industry there are now, whether it's DFS 2.0 or the sweepstakes or now this. It's just every year, Sam's talking, this is the big year or the big news story of the year. It's like, well, last year was DFS 2.0, or was that 2 years ago? I don't even know now. Again, time, I don't know. Time is a circle. It's not flat. It's things and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, I'm just waiting for like a group of bookies to find some loophole to where they can actually just book bets on the street corner and be like, no, under this is okay. Like if you technically by the law that this is written, I can do this because it's not really a bet, it's hot dogs or something.
He's got that meme from
Always
Sunny, and it's Charlie and playing it.
Right.
Man. It's like, I thought sports betting wasn't a big legal thing in the U.S. for years because of PASPA.
Right.
Then all this, I think, has nothing to do with PASPA. So why weren't they doing this all to begin with? Are people just having good ideas now? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's like the torpedo bats, right? They've been around for a long time. They've been around.
Those are legal.
They've been around for a long
They were
time.
using them last year?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Did no one notice?
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm reading the story and I'm going like, why didn't we think of this a long time ago? It's like, oh, they did. It's just people didn't care about it until it was the thing. All right, Pat, let's do our state roundup. We got some news from Alaska, Alabama, Oklahoma, and sorry, the people in Mississippi, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, so Alaska, I think it's just news because it's introduced. It's I think there's been a few bills in the past introduced in Alaska. It's not a state we talk about very much. They don't even have a lottery, one of 5 states without one. So it is introduced to do online sports betting. I don't see it getting much traction. It's one of those states that, it's so small we don't even think it's not going to be worth ultimately very much for these sports books anyway. But I don't think they're putting a ton of effort because it is just kind of a state that, is there that much chance? I don't know. I'll still keep an eye on it. We'll see if it moves at all. Alabama, that's a state that we've talked about a ton the last couple of years. It's kind of been a push-pull. It passed a big, again, one of those states without a lottery. They've been a push-pull between the House and Senate a few years ago. A Senate package, including casino sports betting, lottery passed and went to the House, failed. Then the House passed it last year. Kind of an almost identical package when it came down to it. Failed in the Senate, kind of a head scratcher there. This year it started off really slowly. The House leadership was saying it needs to start in the Senate. The Senate main sponsor, Greg Albritton, has been trying to rustle up the votes to make sure they get the 21 vote threshold. He hasn't been able to do that yet, but he's been telling local media. I haven't been able to get him on the phone yet, but he's been telling local media he will be introducing a package soon if he can secure that vote. A House package dropped yesterday that would start an Alabama Gaming Commission, electronic games of chances, sports betting, a lottery, and interestingly, it would allow for high school NIL compensation and create an oversight committee there. So that's kind of an interesting note. So we'll see if that makes a movement. They have till May 15th. That's when the legislature adjourns for the year. So they've got about a little over a month to see if anything can happen there. Oklahoma, real interesting. Again, something we've talked about ad nauseum over the last couple of years. Governor Kevin Stitt and the Oklahoma tribes do not have a good relationship, and the tribes have a say in pretty much anything because of their compacts. Well, they gave enough input to Rep. Ken Luttrell, who put together a great package that he has passed through the House before, and it did pass again through the House, that gives tribal exclusivity to sports betting. On the other side, on the Senate, you've got a bill that would give online betting control to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that passed the Senate. So you've got these bills switching. The tribes really only like the Luttrell bill from the House because they want the exclusivity. We figured the Thunder approach might get Stitt involved and excited. He said he doesn't like any bill going through the legislature and would veto them. So we'll see if anything can happen there. Doesn't look promising at the moment. But again, that's why we watch these things and why anything can happen in politics. And then Mississippi, I just kind of a similar situation to Alabama, except of course they do have in-person sports betting. One of the first states to legalize sports betting. And ever since then, they've been trying to expand online. This year, they're not getting it done. A House bill passed, fell on deaf ears in the Senate. The Senate passed a bill to prohibit sweepstakes operators and just further define illegal online gambling. And on that, once it was in the House, they amended it to include the House sports betting language. It went back to the Senate. The Senate said, no way, we don't like that. Let's go to conference committee. And then it died in conference committee. So we're another year without online sports betting in Mississippi, despite their strongest efforts, or I don't know, lack thereof strongest efforts. I don't even know.
Yeah, good for Louisiana though. All the people in Louisiana rejoice as those people popping across the border there and betting over in Louisiana where they can bet on their phone and in their car. All right, Sam, we talk a ton about Underdog here. This is a site out there, guys, that started out best ball heavy. It was kind of a new, unique angle on everything. Hey, go in if you've never done best ball before. It's kind of like, oh, you do the best part of fantasy and then you walk away, right? Which is you just do the drafts and then you leave it alone and then it plays out over the course of the season. Well, Underdog had its sight set on more. They were super transparent about this, wanted to get involved in sports betting. They got involved in the DFS Plus or 2.0, however we want to go it, doing that as well. And through all of that, had a funding round and at what valuation?
$1.23 billion.
Holy moly. 1.23. So a little bit about all of this. I mean, like Underdog, if you guys remember at the very beginning when they first came out, like they were touting all of their original investors. They got like a bunch of celebrities and stuff and all the different things like that. And
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, they had all of that going on. And Sam, now they're worth $1.2 billion?
Yeah, $1.23 billion, which is about double their valuation from 2 years ago. And they had their Series B funding round. This is their Series C funding round, so naturally the one that comes after B, but it's led by this thanks for following my alphabet skills. It's led by this venture capital firm called Spark Capital, which that name might not mean anything to you if you're not in this kind of VC space and investing space, but they're a really big Silicon Valley firm. They backed companies like Twitter, which is now X, Slack, and Discord when kind of they were starting out. So to get this, they got a really sizable $100 million investment for them, which led the round. That's the largest single venture capital investment in sports gaming ever, according to Underdog, and all the research they did tracking, other investments in the space. So that's pretty big news for a company we were talking about like only a year and a half ago. Will they even be allowed to keep doing business in all these states? That was such a big reason we talked about them. In the media in general was that their DFS pick'em games that both them and Prize Picks and Sleeper had popularized essentially these parlays based on player props, which were most of their business, as far as most people knew, and were in a lot of states where either sports betting wasn't legal or they didn't have a sports betting license. They kind of went through this period of getting cease and desist letters in like almost 20 states. And then to their credit, they then worked with regulators to understand, okay, what can we offer? In a lot of cases, that was just changing the mechanism of the payout system from, instead of playing against the house where, you win 3 times your return if your, player prop parlay hits or your pick'ems hit, changing that to the entry fee you put up is now pooled among a bunch of constituents, which, if you know anything about the history of daily fantasy sports kind of in this country, that's always been sort of the mechanism it's operated under is, player versus player competing, and then the book or the fantasy app back in the day would then take a percentage of everything that was bet. And then kind of once they rolled out that model, they're allowed to stay in a lot of these states. They even expanded to a bunch of new states under this model. So got to give them credit for really coming out of that big mess that sort of threatened at the time. It was a lot of like speculation, how long are these companies going to be able to keep doing this? They came out and now they're worth about double, and their employee size has doubled. We mentioned, I think, a couple episodes ago about their sportsbook in North Carolina. They want to open a sportsbook up in Missouri, which again is unlike some of those other companies that have done this fantasy space, have said they don't want to do sports betting. So you have to think that that's where a lot of this new investment is coming in. Okay, now we've turned the page and all this pick'em stuff. Let's see what we can kind of do with sports betting. And I know the people at Underdog have a really big vision about kind of how they can change up the user experience, change up the game. So far, we haven't seen anybody really compete with DraftKings or FanDuel. Underdog definitely wants to be one of those companies. And the fact that they got $100 million from one of the largest VC firms is pretty big, especially the fact that it values them at over $1 billion. So quite a different story than we were talking about just a few years ago.
Yeah, and Pat, I mean, you hear Sam talk about them doubling, and in size. You can go to their site right now. 41 job openings over there at Underdog. Everything from customer service all the way down to risk and trading and everything in between, from product and whatnot. So the expansion certainly is there, and it's in every single department. And it does look like they're, with this round, probably, and again, we're just making assumptions, but like probably looking towards that sportsbook expansion that we knew that they were going to do at some point anyway.
They definitely have to be, and it's interesting. I've loved everybody I've worked with and talked to through Underdog, so it's a fun company to kind of, I don't root for because they're the underdog. Yeah. See what I did there?
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's such a fun. Sam's shaking his head. It's I don't know. It's a fun story to kind of watch, and it is. You see these behemoths leading the industry, and yeah, how much money is it going to take to compete with them? What kind of marketing or product is it going to take to compete with them, as we always talk about? But it's, yeah, I guess I might still be jaded when we talk about valuations from my previous reporting life of the beverage industry and watching breweries get gobbled up for billions of dollars. I guess there's only one with Ballast Point for $1 billion, but now those have cratered. Totally different industries, obviously, but I don't know. The valuation stories are fun to follow because of that. They can go up and down so quickly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Guys, quick reminder, everything we do absolutely free. So if you have not done so already, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, rate, review if you want to on the audio side. If you're on the video side of things, hit that subscribe button as well. Do appreciate the support here in all of this. Pat, in your state of Michigan, we know they have been very aggressive with people that have not gone through the regulation process with them, and that has continued.
Yeah, so the Michigan Gaming Control Board sent another 10 cease and desist letters to online casino operators that are unlicensed, unregulated, all under the company of Apex Dynamics from Belize. And that just brings it up to, I think it's nearing 30, if not more than 30 cease and desist letters sent from the MGCB, which is wild, way above most other states we've seen. So, besides maybe Nevada, which has done that for a long time and just kind of goes under the radar in this situation. But yeah, it was 10 brands, and that just joins a huge other slew of brands that have been, shut out of Michigan. It says, you have to shut down within 14 days or we'll pursue legal option. Seemingly most of these websites, including Bovada, have shut down. They were, of course, one of the first they were like the first state of a long string of new states to send cease and desist letters to Bovada. Henry Williams, the executive director, has led a group of state regulators in asking for help from the federal government in shutting down the offshore market. Governor Gretchen Whitmer has allocated money in the state budget to shut down the offshore. So they remain a strong leader in this endeavor to make sure regulated gaming is the only option in town to make sure consumers are protected.
Sam, one of the newer properties here in Las Vegas down the strip is Resorts World, and Resorts World going through some growing pains just overall with everything, and that gets to their sports book as well. You've got a story up over at LSR where we talked about this a while ago, but finally we did get some resolution here as to what was going to go down with all of that kind of illegal bookmaking stuff.
Yeah, Resorts World agreed to pay the second largest fine in Nevada gaming history, only behind the $20 million fine levied against Wynn Resorts in 2019. The fine's $10.5 million. It's going through, it's tied to this now infamous Southern California bookmaker, Matthew Bauer, who pleaded guilty to operating an illegal gambling ring and money laundering sort of through Resorts World. He lost about $8 million at Resorts World, but he would try to kind of, wash the money that he was making, allegedly, as a bookmaker through his time at the casino as a VIP as well. So Resorts World got in trouble for not really being on top of that, not reporting it. Matthew Bauer is the bookmaker tied to Izupe Mizuhara, who I'm hoping I pronounced his name right. It's been a while since we said it. That name was in the news a lot last year because that was Shohei Ohtani, baseball superstar's ex-interpreter, who got tied up in this illegal gambling ring where he was, as far as I remember, betting a lot of money that he got from Ohtani's account.
Yes.
It was certainly quite the story in the sports world at the time, especially for Major League Baseball. But what happened, Resorts World kind of admitted to not having their compliance procedures in place. It was kind of flagged that there was some suspicious activity at the time, but they allowed him to keep betting there, to keep kind of using it as a money laundering place. So it overlapped with their former president, Scott Sabella's time there. He was fired and pleaded guilty in a separate federal case for failing to report suspicious activity unrelated to this. So it hasn't been around that long in Vegas, but already becoming a pretty memorable property for kind of its association with the underworld. So something you got to remember, just because betting's legal and sports betting is legal doesn't mean that the legal world is completely untied to these bad actors we certainly still have out there. And, you think about all the cases going on in college basketball right now, the investigating that's been going on tied to the ring with Jonte Porter in the NBA. So there's still quite a big underbelly in this world. And a lot of money at stake, $10.5 million, second largest fine in Nevada history is a pretty big deal.
All I can say is if this guy could go lose $8 million after running his illegal bookie operation, how much money was he bringing in? Holy mackerel. I mean, that is the number that I really want to get reported. Is at some point we need to figure out how much money this dude was actually making. If you can afford to lose $8 million while you're trying to wash the money, how much money was there to begin with? Holy mackerel, man. That is just something else for sure. But again, $10.5 million is down to Resorts World. They've cleaned house over there as far as executives and are trying to kind of redo everything and redo an image of a property that really just has never kind of failure to launch down there at the end of the strip. All right, Pat, let's close things out here with an interesting story, because I actually have gotten, I'm sure you guys have as well. I mean, you get either some weird spam email or I've even gotten a text from someone where we are now the fraud and the level of fraud that people are going to try and commit has just increased through the roof. They've gotten very, very, very good at it. It is almost this incredibly sophisticated operation. And that is not just on the, bank side of things or the crypto side of things or any other way that you've tried to be, getting scammed. It's now coming over into the online world with the casinos and sportsbooks and stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think my parents just recently got a call from me or somebody posing as me asking for help. And thankfully, my parents, despite being in their 70s, are still, astute and aware of these things. So that is crazy. Just be aware and tell your parents to be careful.
Yeah. Right.
But
I keep getting these New Jersey traffic violation texts.
Yes.
I haven't paid,
Same.
and I don't even have a license. So
same. And I've never driven in New Jersey.
That wasn't me, dude.
It's wild. Anyway. So the Arizona Department of Gaming sent out an email this week to, inform consumers or remind them that to remind them that online casinos are not legal in Arizona. And at first I was like, okay, are they talking about the online sweepstakes stuff or whatever? And so I emailed them.
Hard to keep track of all this.
It's really hard to keep track. And so I emailed them and said, no, we sent a consumer PSA out about those in January to make sure you're only playing the free-to-play ones and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, so what are we talking about? And it's sure enough, straight imitation casinos. They are imitating licensed brick and mortar casinos in Arizona and pretending to be their online extensions. And they list out a couple of reasons. You can go to the LSR and read the reasons and things to look out for and whatever. But it's little things like a little misspelling or .net versus .com and the things like that. And of course, they don't want people gambling on those because they are unlicensed, unregulated. There's no consumer protections. They could be simply deposited money into them and that's it. And the consumers are never getting money back. They can't play anything, things like that.
Nigerian prince has it.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was a really interesting thing to get because I didn't even know this was going on, but sure enough, it is just straight imitating real casinos. And then he sent me a couple articles from across the country, including local Kansas media saying the Kansas, casinos have seen these Washington tribes up in Washington State are battling the same thing, and even in Canada. So just straight imitating casinos, legitimate casinos. Is a wild concept to me, but I guess scammers know no bounds.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting there when it was kind of hot and heavy. I think this dates all the way back to COVID when they knew everybody was just at home and had nothing better to do. I was getting a bunch of Mandalay Bay Online Casino.com, whatever. And there's no online gambling, and there's no online gambling in Nevada, and I know that, but it was a lot of people. It was them trying to take advantage of people they knew were sitting at home, nothing better to do. Like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll gamble, and it's like, no, that's actually a completely faked site, and all that. So again, guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, just take the extra time, do your due diligence, because if it seems fishy, unfortunately, in the times that we live in, it probably is. It's like, it just really is. If it seems fishy, it probably is. Unfortunately, guys,
they're getting a little bit more sophisticated than the Nigerian princes.
Yes, they
That's
have.
crazy.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about that, guys. All these stories and more over on LegalSportsReport.com. Please go in, take in the words that Pat, Sam, and company, everybody over there working hard to put up over there. They are watching, they are listening, they are summarizing so that you do not have to do it. So please support LegalSportsReport.com. And as we said just a bit ago, all this stuff absolutely free. So your support can also be by clicking that button. It takes 1 second to click that subscribe button. So do appreciate you guys with that. For Pat, for Sam, I am Matt. Talk to you guys next week.